What's going on, everybody? Thank you all for joining me today. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. If you're new to the channel, and most importantly, please make sure that you are following me on Telegram at TD Media Group to help circumvent social media censorship and shadow banning. And with the introduction out of the way, let's get into today's news. And today we have to head on over to, we'll say, CNN studios. Why is that? Because recently, Hakeem Jeffries gave a really interesting interview in which essentially he threw out a bunch of threats, right? He threw out a bunch of threats about how, as soon as the Democrats get back in office, they are going to weaponize the DOJ to come after Trump, his administration, and any and everybody essentially that's associated with him. And I want to play that right now because I find it really interesting, some of the things he had to say. So let's get into these threats that he's making, and then we'll unpack it a little bit more once the clip finishes playing. So let's get into this first.
One thing to understand, as people who are flirting with the Trump administration or doing the bidding of the Trump administration or engaging in the pay-to-play schemes of the Trump administration, the statute of limitations is 5 years. Donald Trump and this toxic administration will be long gone, but there will still be accountability to be had. And that process, of course, begins now, but it will not be complete until perhaps there is an independent Department of Justice, certainly an independent House of Representatives in Democratic hands. The Department of Justice is one of the great institutions in law enforcement in the history of this country, and Donald Trump and these extremists have been destroying its integrity.
Isn't it interesting how the only thing on these people's mind is revenge? The only thing on Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrat Party's mind is revenge. And it's not like anything, like what's happening that warrants this from the Democrat Party? What is the Trump administration doing that warrants this type of hostility and a want for revenge and a vow to weaponize the Department of Justice to go after the Trump administration and any and everybody associated with Donald Trump? Other than the fact that you lost an election fair and square, is it that hard to process and take in the fact that you just lost the election because the American people don't want what the Democrat Party has for sale? Is it that hard to just regroup and say, hey, let's repackage how we, give out our information, and let's maybe to some degree come to the center on certain things and actually propose solutions to what we say the problems are with the Trump administration? They don't do any of that. Instead, they operate in this deranged mind state where the only thing that they have on their mind is get back and revenge. Now, there's another clip that I have queued up, but I'm not going to play it because I want to get into another CNN clip that I think is a lot more important. But I'll tell you very quickly, it was a continuation of this interview in which Hakeem Jeffries said that the Supreme Court has enabled Donald Trump to act like a king, and shame on the Supreme Court. He kind of threatened the Supreme Court a little bit too, if you ask me. But as it pertains to Trump acting like a king and a tyrant, this is a tired narrative that they're still running with, a tired narrative, partly of which lost him the election. Let me show you something here. Look at this Truth Social post from Donald Trump. Trump is quite literally on Truth Social begging Pam Bondi to do her job. Okay. A king wouldn't be on social media begging people in their cabinet to do their job. It was like pulling teeth to get the Republicans to pass the big, beautiful bill. If Trump was a king, it wouldn't have been that difficult. Okay. But let's get back to Truth Social. Let me pull it up for you right now. You don't believe me? I'm going to show it to you right now. Trump is literally begging Pam Bondi to do her job. Give me a moment and let me pull this up. Now, look at this here. Does this sound like king talk to you? Pam, I have reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially same old story as last time. All talk, no action. Nothing is being done. What about Comey, Adam, Shifty Schiff, and Letitia James? They are all guilty as hell, but nothing is going to be done. What he's speaking to is the reactions and comments to people who are frustrated with Pam because she gets on Fox News, She talks real tough about prosecution, but essentially nothing ever gets done. No one's prosecuted, especially when you're looking at cases that are seemingly slam dunk cases like Letitia James, right? Slam dunk, open and shut case as it pertains to mortgage fraud, allegedly, we have to say. And he's reading the comments of the people that are saying, same old story as last time, all talk, no action, so on and so forth. Nothing's going to get done. He's reading this and going on social media begging Pam to do her job. Why is that? Here's why. He says this at the bottom. We can't delay any longer. It's killing our reputation and credibility. They impeached me twice and indicted me 5 times over nothing. Justice must be served now. President Donald J. Trump. He wrote this in all caps. Is this what a king would be doing? Would a king be writing in all caps on social media if he was truly just running around here doing whatever he wanted rampantly? No. There are checks and balances in this country. Trump cannot just do whatever he wants. But they're still running around with the same tired, stupid narratives that aren't rooted in any type of truth at all whatsoever. And the thing is, the people can see this. Those who matter as it pertains to who will be voting in the midterms and who will be voting for president in 2028. That's what I find really comical about Hakeem Jeffries' threats. It's rooted in complete Trump derangement syndrome. It's completely TDS. He's not a king. And the people can see that you have nothing to offer. So when it comes back to Hakeem Jeffries and his threat, the statute of limitations is 5 years. So long after the Trump administration is gone, we'll still be able to come after you. Well, it doesn't look like you're going to be coming after anybody anytime soon, because it looks like Democrats won't be taking office for another decade, if not more. So statute of limitations will long have passed, but that's despite the fact that there is no crimes committed on behalf of the Trump administration. Now, what do I mean by the fact that it looks like Democrats won't be getting back into office and taking over the White House for another decade or so? Well, check the polling numbers coming from CNN. Even they're in disbelief at how atrocious the Democrat Party is doing.
What do you think?
Yeah, what are we seeing? Donald Trump being underwater, Democrats saying, oh, this guarantees us we're going to fly high in the midterms. Let me tell you, this guarantees you nothing, because at this particular point, the Democrats are the New Orleans Saints of political parties. What are we talking about? Trust the Dems or GOP more on the economy? Who leads on the economy? Republicans by 7. Immigration, Republicans by 13. How about crime, a big issue for Donald Trump and the Republicans? Look at that, lead by 22 points. So the bottom line is this. At this particular point, the ball may be on the ground, but the Democrats have not picked up the ball and running with it. If anything, at this particular point, it's the Republicans who are running with the ball on the top issues, the economy, immigration, and crime.
Give some context on this. Compare this when Republicans last took the House.
Yeah, let's compare it back to 2022. I think this kind of gives away the game right here. Okay, the GOP is more trusted than the Dems on the economy. It was 12 points in 2022. Slight decline in that lead, but still 7 points. How about immigration? It was Republicans by 3 back in 2022. Look at this. The Republican lead's actually gone up by 10 points. What are you doing, Democrats? My goodness gracious. And on crime, the Republicans were up by 13, and now they're up by 22. The lead, again, expanding by nearly double digits. So whatever Democrats are doing, it ain't working, Kate. It ain't working. Republicans have the lead on all 3 issues.
Democrats are getting absolutely obliterated. But why? Because it appears that they're only appealing to the most radical element of their base. When you're coming out here essentially issuing empty threats, and they're not empty, to be honest with you, they're very serious threats. And I do believe everything Hakeem Jeffries is saying if Democrats actually do get in power. But I call it empty because by the numbers, they're not getting back into office. And you have to ask yourself, how can they get back into office when they're getting crushed in every key priority to the American people, especially when you're talking about crime? How can you get back into office when you're saying nonsense like this? If you haven't heard this from Jasmine Crockett, check this out. This has to be one of the most dumbest things that I've heard coming out of her mouth this year.
I want to be clear that, like, law enforcement isn't to prevent crime. Law enforcement solves crime, okay? That is what they are supposed to do. They are supposed to solve crimes, not necessarily prevent them from happening, per se.
When you speak nonsense like this, it's clear that you're not even addressing the American people anymore. You're not addressing independents, those who are undecided. You're just talking to the most radical element of your base when you're talking this nonsensical. And you can't win an election like that. That's why I'm actually very dumbfounded. I don't understand what the end game and what the end goal is for the Democrat Party. Maybe you guys can tell me in the comment section below, because I genuinely don't understand where they are going with this. And it appears that independents and undecideds feel the exact same way. What are you guys doing and what are you talking about? Let's get back into the CNN clip.
On all three issues.
What's the reason that you are finding so far that's driving this?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's all about the center of the electorate, right? You win with independents, you win overall. And what do we see right here among independents? Republicans still have a point lead on the economy. They got a 10-point lead on immigration. They got a 21-point lead on crime. The bottom line is, when you look at these numbers, Democrats should call their offices, because at this particular point, even if Republicans, or even if the public doesn't like what Donald Trump is doing, they ain't necessarily liking what Democrats are doing. And it ain't just a referendum on one party. You actually have to go out and beat that party at this particular point. Democrats are not able to beat Republicans. They still
and again, this isn't as Donald Trump came into office. These are numbers from this month.
These are numbers from September of 2025. We still find that the Republicans leading on all three of these issues. And of course, this economy will be the key. If Democrats are going to win, they're going to have to likely win on the economy. At this particular point among independents, you see that 1-point lead for Republicans. And overall, at least according to the Washington Post, they hold a 7-point lead on the economy overall as well.
As it currently stands, there is zero path to victory for Democrats as it pertains to taking over, DC, taking over the House, the Senate, or even the White House in 2028. Now, we're getting way ahead of ourselves when you start talking about the White House, even though it pretty much seems like it's going to be slam dunk, going to be Vance or Marco Rubio. But if we're just sticking to the midterms, there's no path to victory. How do you win when you have people as stupid as Jasmine Crockett speaking on your behalf, saying nonsense like this?
Clear that, like, law enforcement isn't to prevent crime. Law enforcement solves crime, okay? That is what they are supposed to do. They are supposed to solve crimes, not necessarily prevent them from happening, per se.
How do you win? How do you win when you keep just recycling the same old rhetoric of Donald Trump is a king, he's a king, and he's a dictator, when that's one of the reasons that you lost the first time? So I'm genuinely confused as it pertains to the Democrats' endgame. And that's my question to you all as we bring this video to a close. They have no path to victory. They're speaking pure and utter nonsense at this point. They're putting out very serious threats if they do win, but realistically, in my opinion, very empty threats because they have no path to victory. So when Democrats speak the nonsense that they do, please help me understand in the comment section. What is the end game and the end goal for the Democrat Party? Because I don't know what is. It appears to me that we're going to have a decade, if not longer, of Republican dominance. And I'm all here for it. I hope that that's the case, because I don't ever want to see a liberal in charge again. Eventually, one day they will get back in charge, but I don't see it happening anytime soon, thank God. But once again, in closing, what do you think the Democrats' endgame is? Let me know in the comment section below, because I just don't understand what it is that they're doing at this point, other than appealing to the most radical element of their base. And with all that being said, that does it for today's news. So I want to thank you guys for joining me today. Please hit the like button on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Share this video on your social media platforms. And please do not forget to follow me on Telegram. That is extremely important that you do that. The link to my Telegram is in the description box below and pinned in the comment section as well. Thank you all for your time. Until the next video, peace and have a great afternoon.